Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of... Bro, what's this called again?
The weekly roundup.
I've not done it in so long. I forgot. Should we start again?
No, that's all right.
Okay, we'll keep that. Welcome back to the weekly roundup, your favourite podcast on YouTube with the two main men. It's been a while. Christmas happened, holidays happened, so, the schedule got disrupted.
It did.
However, we're back, 2023. Hope you had a good New Year, Christmas, etc. And we're back. And guess what we're talking about, guys? FTX.
My favourite story.
Our favourite story. No, we'll cover it. We'll be brief on it because we don't want to speak too much about it. But maybe a bit of potential good news coming out anyway. So FTX have recovered $5 billion worth of liquid assets. No one knows really where the money's come from. I don't think it's disclosed within the article itself. All the article says is that they disclosed $5 billion and that they were allowed to sell some non-essential investments, which included LedgerX and some other, actually says FTX Japan, FTX Europe, and all that kind of stuff.
But I think that was like on top of the 5 billion.
Yeah, that's on top of the 5
That's
billion.
on top of
Just
the
to
5
clear that
billion,
up. So they've got this 5 billion, and then there's another potential 4.5 billion out there, which they're going to try and raise as well.
Yeah, that's 9.5 billion.
9.5 billion
That everyone thought was at zero.
So
basically.
what was the hole though? There was an $8 billion hole in the balance sheet,
but
right?
we don't know what their actual worth was. If they're
Okay.
worth like 17, 18k, it's
Yeah, but nonetheless, bit of positive news coming out. FTX.
Yeah, it's better than it looked.
It's better than having FTX has done this, FTX has done that.
Yeah,
Now,
FTX has got zero.
It looks like they're getting some money in. Does this mean that FTX users are going to get some of their funds back potentially? Again, you have to kind of I still take FTX articles with a pinch of salt because you just don't actually know what's going on with this yet until it actually happens. So don't get your hopes up too high. However, that being said, positive news coming out of FTX, and I think that's all we have to really say on that.
It's looking promising.
There's not really much to say about it, really. It's just a quick update.
It's looking promising because the way that I look at FTX is that it's like the worst thing ever. So any like half decent news is
good news.
Good.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, as long as this is a higher chance of people getting their funds back, which is the only thing that matters anyway.
Exactly.
At this point, FTX are pretty much like their reputation is tainted now, no matter what happens with this. Even if everyone does get their funds back, but the fact that people are getting their life savings back, their investments back, that's the main thing in my eyes, and I'm sure everyone's eyes watching.
Or
this
as much
anyway.
of that as possible.
Exactly. That's all that matters anyway.
The more they find, the more people get.
Exactly.
It, so.
But we'll leave it at that anyway because
we hate FTX.
Yeah, we don't really like FTX/SBF, but. Another exchange who made the headlines this week, Coinbase, as they lay off an additional 20% of employees. I say additional because last year they obviously came out and announced they were laying off X amount of staff due to and again this the same reason this time is that they've cited market conditions again. Same thing I'll say last time we spoke about an exchange laying off staff. They're doing it to safeguard against a potential collapse or run into liquidity issues. It's totally understandable. It's not great for the employees, obviously, and it's not actually obviously bullish news at all, but it's what companies have to do in order to survive. But one thing I did want to say on this is that say if like Tesla, for example, or not, Tesla's probably not the best example, but another big company laid off staff when your traditional markets are going down, no one really reads too much into it. They obviously speak about it, but if it's a crypto exchange, I feel like a lot of people jumped on this news article earlier on this week and tried to make it into like a whole YouTube video and making it a really big thing. However, again, it's just we're in this point in the bear market now. Everyone's jumping on FUD stories kind of thing to kind of get clicks, etc. Yeah. So in my opinion, it's not too detrimental news. Yes, 20% is a lot of their staff. I'm not too sure what the actual figure is. I'm sure it might say it in the actual article itself.
Well, it is like anti-growth, obviously. It's the opposite of growth. But then if their balance sheet is deteriorating, they let people go, and then the market starts to reverse. It will have the opposite effect when the market starts to go back up because they'll have less outgoings and made more money, so the profits will be higher. Then they'll probably hire again, and that's how these cycles work.
Yeah, it's literally a cycle.
But yeah, it is what it is. Like the actual laying off of staff is always going to be lagging to what the market is doing anyway.
Yeah, it is.
So we're in a period of time now where it's more uncertain than ever as to even what direction crypto is going to travel, which is what we're going to talk about a bit at the end. But I think that, like you said, people, because it's in crypto, people just jump on the story
and
make it bearish. However, if you look at it on the flip side, and I made this point in the newsletter the other week, DCG were letting go like 30% of their staff because of a restructuring, but everyone's was panicking about DCG going bankrupt. Well, my argument is, if you're going to go bankrupt, you probably don't openly let off 30% of the staff, because then people are going to start to panic on stock price and maybe start dumping it anyway. You're more likely to be able to have restructured and stay afloat if you're letting off staff. So even though it doesn't look great in terms of growth, it means it's probably not the end, because if it was the end, they probably would just keep it behind closed doors, then announce all at the same time, okay, we're bankrupt or we have no liquidity, and then get the liquidators in.
Yeah. Well, I think it's different for Coinbase, just because everything that's been going on with exchanges and like exchanges not being transparent with figures. I feel like they have to come out and tell you exactly who the exact percentage, what they're letting off. Because say if they try to keep this under wraps, people will jump on it straight away saying, "Oh, Coinbase have got liquidity issues. They're struggling. They're going to go bankrupt, etc." So
yeah, I actually listened to a really cool podcast with Brian Armstrong, and he was saying how this was like a year ago when I listened to it, and he was saying how that they structured to lose money in bear markets but keep the losses limited, but then to maximize profits in bull markets. They're basically saying that our whole business model is to lose money for 3 years and make like way more in the 1 year or whatever.
So do you think literally that goes back to your point then? If he's obviously laying off staff, cutting all those losses, once we do enter that bull cycle, they're going to have that excess because all the percentage of laid off. So it does make sense. I'm sure, when we're going to get articles once the markets do eventually reverse and do pick up, that they're going to be hiring again, but no one's going to pick up on them and start publicising them. So
yeah, not until we're back towards all-time high.
That's probably all I just want everyone to keep in mind as well about stories like this. It's a bit of a nothing story in the grand scheme of things, because it's, like I said, it's not the end of the world. It's not like they're filing for bankruptcy. It's just a staff layoff, which is what every company does in big companies anyway do in the world. So
definitely. But
we'll move on to some bullish news that we came across earlier on this week. And that is that Venom Foundation and Iceberg Capital are launching a $1 billion venture fund to invest into Web3. I just found this one quite interesting. It's a bit of bullish news amongst a bearish sentiment, like bias market kind of thing. It's just weird because no one really spoke about it too much on YouTube.
Seen it, to be honest.
We all didn't even know. Like, this is what I mean. I know it's not massive. Okay, 1 billion is still a lot of money.
Yeah. But
no one's bringing these type of articles to light because I think no one really wants to hear bullish news at the moment because everyone's so bearish. Everyone's just been, their mind's just been like almost not manipulated. It's not the right word, but it's just they're just in that regime of thinking.
Like beat down and
they're just
that's the only thing that can happen. Yeah,
exactly. But this is obviously investment coming in from Saudi, a Saudi-based blockchain company, and the reason why I included it in the episode kind of links to this as well. And that is that Saudi are making moves basically again in the bear market
with the UAE.
Just like we said, UAE. Obviously, this is all UAE, but I'm speaking about that region kind of thing because we know how much money is tied up within the Middle East. It's ridiculous. Like even if we try and relate it to football nowadays, you've got all these like UAE, Saudi companies coming in, buying Man City, all these kind of things. They're taking over everything.
Their liquid cash is massive.
Exactly. They've just got. Like, obviously, we get access to Forbes, so we can see this person's the richest person in the world, but, like, we don't understand how much money is actually in Saudi, just due to the whole, like, oil and all that kind of stuff. That's where the majority of the money is in the world, no matter wherever you read it from. But, like this article suggests here, they are making steps in getting their regulatory framework in place as well. They're passing laws, and this article actually speaks about like potential fines you can get. So they've come in quite hard, which is what they normally do anyway. So because they're quite anti, I'm trying to think of the right way to word this, but they don't like people
bending the laws,
doing the wrong things. So, and I think this is probably the best way to kind of come in and regulate the space if you kind of threaten with these big, heavy fines.
Yeah, well, what they do, I think, pretty like obviously it's a different structure to what we have in here, and you can obviously argue whether it's better or not. But like what they do is they have much more relaxed like income and tax laws.
Yeah.
But if you break them, then you're basically done. Whereas like in the UK or in the West in general, we have probably much stronger. And if you break them, if you've got capital, you can fight the law basically. Whereas they're just like, no, you break the law. That's it.
That's it. You're getting fined this much amount of money, which is, in my opinion, is probably one of the best ways to kind of go about this whole crypto regulation thing. Whether the EU, US, UK follow suit, is another question. I'm sure there'll be similar laws in there, but probably not as hefty as this. But no, I just think, obviously we shout about Brazil, India, all these kind of like BRIC nations to keep an eye on with when it comes to crypto, blockchain. But I just think we can't disregard the Saudi region, Middle East region, because of the amount of money that is involved in that region. And when we enter this bull cycle again, all the media kind of goes back onto crypto, etc. You best believe that you're going to have Saudi companies coming in left, right, and centre and investing. So. You're going to get so many more funds, higher than obviously $1 billion. Like I said, we've seen higher funds in terms of value. We've seen them in the previous bull cycle we went through. But does this kind of suggest that the bottom's in? Why would these guys open $1 billion fund amongst a bear market? We've seen how the market's been reacting over the last 7 days. Are we starting to see the signs? I'll let you guys speculate on that, because we all know our opinion by now. Well, we should do anyway. But yeah, it's a bit of positive news out there. But we'll move on.
Yeah, it's kind of the biggest story, but it's also a bit of in my opinion, a bit of a nothing burger.
It's one of them, because we had the whole FTX collapse that died down, and then this kind of was happening, and now everyone's jumped on the whole DCG, Gemini, Genesis kind of thing. There is a lot going on, and depending on what article you read, it could potentially be very bad if you believe what's coming out of these articles, if you believe Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss's Twitter threads and like their open letters, etc.
But even then, like, Gemini's not that big, like not compared to like FTX.
No, I think you actually bought some sort of stats in my mind.
Yeah,
I think you did actually. I can't remember. It was a massively substantial difference between like Gemini going under opposed to FTX collapsing. It was just ridiculously different figures. So like,
the thing that people have been worried about is DCG going under.
Yeah, because of the grayscale. That's the main thing.
But like, that's never really like, and even if you read in between the lines of what Winklevoss is saying, he's not really attacking grayscale or anything.
No, he's not. He's just kind of got some vendetta against Barry Silbert. Like, it just seems quite personal from the way he's gone about it, which we'll go into on Twitter. It seems very personal, coming out and calling him a fraud. Do you know what I mean? In the public eye, people get sued for that.
Yeah, what it looks like to me is someone who's got everything to lose.
Yeah.
Or nothing to lose, sorry, and like everything to gain by trying to like throw his hat in the ring, because his response is completely emotional. Like,
of course
he's trying to show like an emotional side. Obviously, it could all be done for social media. He's trying to show like an emotional side and shout about everything that Barry Silbert's done wrong. But I actually just think that that's just trying to do like what Sam Bankman-Fried and happened with FTX is like, whoever shouts the loudest probably has something to hide.
Yeah.
And Barry Silbert's came out and been pretty quiet with it all, responded like a couple of times and then not really heard from him at all. And like, I feel like that shows the difference in maturity and experience, whether it means either of them are right or wrong. Like, it shows a lot more of like experienced response.
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
Because even if he's wrong, he probably is knowing that like whatever I say online is not going to make any difference to like what my portfolio is looking like.
If anything, it will just make it worse. But like, this is a point which me and Will were speaking about off camera. We've spoken about this whole situation over the past month anyway, because this isn't a new story. This actually came to light in the back end of November.
Yeah.
But it was only overshadowed because of the whole FTX thing was still kind of in the thick of things back then. But Cameron's open letter that he sent at the very start of this year kind of put it back into the public light. Now everyone's jumped on it. But we'll quickly discuss this news article in front of you. That came up this week, and it's just kind of another company, which it's a Dutch exchange, Bitvarvo, or I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. They rejected DCG's proposal to repay 70% of their debt. That debt was 290 million. Within the article, they basically said, Bitvarvo said, we believe DCG have the assets to repay this debt back in full, so we're rejecting that proposal. We're going to self-fund that at 290 million, or as much as they can in the meantime, and they kind of went in this article and just stressed, look, we're fine, we've got no liquidity issues, even without this debt we can still manage our day-to-day business. So again, it's a bit of a nothing story. I just thought I'd bring it to your guys' attention anyway, because it's a bit more pressure on, and it just shows again, like, people just jumping on little things like this. Like, Bitvarvo have come out and said, we're not bothered about it, we're rejecting that because we feel like you have the assets to have it. In the meantime, we're going to self-rate, but it's still made headline news. Yeah,
but that's the difference between what Gemini are doing and what like Bitvarvo are doing. So Gemini have come out and said the opposite. They're like, you owe us this money, you need to give it us. And they're saying, oh, we're fine without it. So it shows that Gemini have made a mistake. And like, well, what he's basically said, Winklevoss, is that they lent the money to DCG for the Gemini Earn system.
Yeah.
And then now they need to give it back because some of the customers want to claim it back. Well, actually, there's probably an agreement there, which they probably signed in the first place in the bull market, where they didn't even think about like lending it and what the terms and conditions were or anything like that, or probably did think about it but thought, oh, it's never going to get to that.
Yeah.
So actually it's the Winklevosses who have messed up because they've lent their customers funds out, and if they can't instantly get them back, that should be their number one priority as an exchange. They have to come out and say, like, and literally be super emotional about it. Oh my God, like, look what you've done to them. But it's actually Winklevosses who have lent the money away.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
it's their customers put the trust into them to manage their funds.
Exactly. Yeah,
whatever you do
true,
with it is your problem. Like,
that's true.
Even if a third party is the person who's like dictating it, the third party wouldn't have control of your customers' funds if you hadn't lent them anyway.
That's true. I've never actually thought about it in that kind of light, but this is the open letter that we were discussing, and this is kind of what kind of started this story kind of to come in the public eye a bit more. You can read it all. It's on your screen right now. It's just it's one of them, like we were saying off camera, is it a bit of a publicity stunt on... Obviously, I'm not saying there's no problems here. There's evidently a problem between the two companies, and there is. But is it enough to bring into the public eye? Is he got ulterior motives to why he's done that? Who knows? We've seen him do it with like the whole Facebook saga, as they kind of claim they had the idea for Facebook in the past. I did not know the Winklevoss twins owned a crypto exchange before this all kicked off. And I like look into crypto on a daily basis, so that just kind of shows the impact he's already had. So like, okay, there's an issue here. Let me bring it in the public light. Get our name out there. Get our exchange name out there for when the next bull market comes along. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be true.
Who knows? But at the moment, as this situation is silent, it's still ongoing. There's no... Obviously, the SEC have now got involved. I think, obviously, if we move on to the next...
Shocked.
If we got into the next Twitter thread here by Tyler Winklevoss, obviously the second twin in the whole situation, he kind of made a thread about how he was disappointed in the SEC's action. I mean, we're all disappointed in the SEC, mate, but you shouldn't have probably brought this into the public eye.
Yeah.
They've basically had an issue, brought it into the public eye. SEC have sat back and said... What, you're doing that program? Yeah, we'll sue you as well then. So it's just literally, like, he's been hit with a bit of a double whammy. So he's got this...
Literally, oh yeah, Barry, we did this to you. We lent you this money. The SEC are like, oh, cheers.
Yeah, Sam, that's illegal, mate.
Yeah,
have that. So it's another tough one for these guys because the SEC are after them now, and.
But then I said to you, go on, you go.
They've shot themselves in the foot, basically. That's all I'm saying.
But then I said to Pav off camera, Barry Silbert is a very powerful man.
This is very good speculation.
Is there potentially something going on with like Barry Silbert maybe having a leg and somewhere into the SEC to try, like maybe they're already going to go after Gemini or whatever, and then like almost probed them, not probed them, but like knew they'd get an emotional reaction, then they'd send the letter out, and then the SEC sue Gemini and take the heat away from Digital Currency Group and just leave it to the branch of Genesis within Digital Currency Group, which isn't worth it's worth a decent amount, but it's not like their main money maker. So maybe Barry Silbert's got some influence. Like, don't come after me, Barry. But.
Yeah. Well, for those of you that don't know and who aren't aware who Barry Silbert is, I'd recommend you go onto Google, and because there is an image out there which has a massive mind map in terms of all the companies he's connected to and what he's got shares in, crypto and non-crypto. He has a lot of power, a pull.
Massive.
He owns a couple. I think he owns one or two crypto media like sites as well. He's got a lot. It's Cointelegraph. It's a big one.
Or CoinDesk, one of it.
Yeah, one of the ones you would have heard of. Yeah. He's got a lot of pull.
Yeah.
Crypto and non-crypto, doesn't matter. And he's a very experienced businessman. I did a bit of reading into him as well.
Well, even with their Grayscale, like Bitcoin Trust Fund, they work literally with institutions with that, and they're like the only people that provide any sort of any large scale exposure for institutions. So he's got to be well connected to be able to do that, because otherwise people wouldn't invest into it anyway.
Exactly. I think, in my opinion, look, there's an issue here. Yes, like I said, but the Winklevosses twins, they've picked the wrong fight. In my opinion, the way they've gone about it is almost in a situation where is a lose-lose situation for them, and they were kind of sitting there thinking, look, let's just take this public. Hopefully either it gets resolved because we put a bit of pressure on Barry Silbert, which evidently hasn't really worked. He's just kind of batted it off, and now they're getting sued by the SEC.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, that's my conclusion. Yeah, they've picked the wrong fight here, and they've, like I said, shot themselves in the foot here.
Which kind of leads us into like price action, because everyone knew that the date for this was going to be on Monday. Like whatever was going to happen on Monday.
Jan 8th or 12th?
No, it might have been 9th, I think.
9th, yeah.
But 8th or 9th. And then,
it said 8th, but 8th was actually a Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was said the 8th, and then... So if we look where actually that was in terms of... That was here, so that's the 8th there.
And that's when the move started, really.
And then the move started the day after, which is what I said actually in the newsletter last week, because I covered the DCG story pretty heavily, and I said I think it's probably going to be a nothing burger, and we'll probably move after the 8th/9th of January, and we've literally had the biggest rally after the 8th.
I'm not going to say he called it, but he called it.
Not going to say read the newsletter, but read the flipping newsletter. How about that?
Gets frustrating, doesn't it? Writing all this stuff down on a weekly basis. Get a lot of people kind of saying we're wrong, etc. And things come into fruition literally the next week. So I'm not saying we're absolutely geniuses, but we make some decent calls on that newsletter anyway.
And one of the big things I've been actually screaming about on the newsletter for literally, well, it was started in here. Months, so if some people got in there, well, they're still up quite a lot. But then if people had accumulated all this time, which I actually wrote about it every week for about 3 or 4 weeks.
4 weeks every week,
and then you'd be getting 0.5% a day, or 0.3% a day if you have no ape to stake it with.
Yeah.
On top, like that's actually in terms of coins on top of like what you held, and then now you'd already be minimum percentage gain you would have made is to right now is 17. Maximum percentage gain would be, what's that, 58.8% plus 0.3% a day on your actual holding. So you're probably looking at minimum of 20, maximum of 60 to 70% that you'd have made from that call that I literally wrote about every week. So
it's a great call.
No one could say they missed that, because I've made a section every week. We
even posted separate posts within our Patreon as well, just reminding people. We actually released the alpha initially early on the Patreon as well, which was before we released the newsletter, just so people could get in the trade before.
Yeah.
Because we did think it was going to break out at that point. But it doesn't matter. Even like going forward now, even the price as it is now, I still think it's going higher, and there's a reason and a potential catalyst for that as well.
Yeah.
Which should we discuss? Should we give them the alpha? Well, what's the game called? Do you want to explain?
I think it's called Dookie Dash.
It's called Dookie Dash, a game which is obviously run by Yuga Labs here. So anyone who owns an ape or a mutant ape, you can essentially get yourself either one of 4 tiers tickets, and it's basically an entry towards this game that they're running. It starts on January 18th, and basically the whole mutant and Bored Ape community can play this game. The higher you finish within the leaderboard, we're not too sure if it's a cumulative score or a one-time kind of...
I think it's a one-time score.
We think it's
a one-time score.
This is the game here, so we'll put the website as well in here as well. But anyway, the reason why ApeCoin could benefit from this is because basically participants can cash in to ApeCoin, and it gives them a boost for the first 10 minutes, I think it is, within the game. So it gives them a better chance to get higher on in the leaderboard. Obviously, the higher they finish within the leaderboard, the better prize they get. The prize that they're going to get is an NFT mint for, well, we're not actually too sure what the NFT is going to is, but the higher you finish in the leaderboard, the rarer your NFT is going to be. And for those of you that know Yuga Labs and know Bored Ape Yacht Club and the community, these go for massive price tags. So everyone's going to be cashing in ApeCoin, buying ApeCoin, whether they have it in their reserves. Those who don't will be obviously going to the open market and buying ApeCoin to get this boost for this game that starts next week. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's another potential catalyst amongst the TA, amongst Bitcoin going on an absolute colossal run, which it's going on at the moment as well.
I just want to mention actually one thing while we just talked about that, is one thing that we actually have been doing behind closed doors is, if anyone's watching this who does have a Bored Ape or a mutant ape who wants representation by professional gamers to run your game for you.
Yep.
We've started an agency with some of the people in the Bored Ape Yacht Club community where we'll be doing that. You go and join the Discord, have a look on my Twitter. There's a Discord community out there now. We'll be playing for you for a fee, and we'll guarantee you certain placements in terms of this time trial leaderboard, which is going to equate to a more rare mint.
Exciting times. Exciting times if you're a member of this community, or even like, it just kind of shows where another thing we've been shouting about in the newsletter and actually on this podcast is Web3 gaming, or that kind of world. It just kind of shows where this is going and like how, you know, it's going to be integrated within our day-to-day lives and how people can potentially make money off playing games.
Yeah, literally.
Stuff we dreamed about as kids. Yeah. And kids even today are dreaming about. Everyone wants to be a YouTuber now. All these people playing Fortnite. Well, this is your opportunity to make an income from playing Web3 games. And
literally.
The project we've been working on behind closed door kind of represents that point very well.
Definitely. That's it.
It's huge potential. But that's all the news. That's all the TA really for this week.
It is.
It's been a pretty crazy week actually in terms of like, 'cause we had CPI as well. We've not mentioned that, but CPI came in at 6.5, which was also forecast.
As expected, yeah.
And the markets actually did rally on the back of that on an hourly basis, but yeah, things are starting to shift a little bit.
I don't want to say we've confirmed the breakout, but the move's definitely good. The move's positive. It's the biggest move we've seen in a long time.
Look, I mean, sorry, just to interrupt, but even if the daily RSI, if you check out the daily RSI on Bitcoin, we've not seen this much strength within the market since we initially led up to the 40k highs we saw. So when was that? Yeah, back in the start of 21, end of 2020, which, as we all know, was a crazy time within Bitcoin and all the other altcoins where we saw these massive green candles, and the market's showing similar strength. So again, it's still too early to say. I'm not saying it's 100%, but the tide's starting to shift a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
I think so as well.
That's all I'm saying.
And I don't want to say too much more than that because everything can always change.
Yeah,
We've still got a lot of hurdles to get over, but the volume's big. The breakout of the pattern's pretty big, as I was just showing on an inverted scale. This would look definitely like it was coming down, at least the moving averages, and probably to this level here. That's what I would presume, but okay, well, it's not flipping it back over now for some reason, but that looks like a clear breakout to me with decent volume. So let's just see what happens from here. We need to reclaim the FTX level, which we're pretty close to doing right now, actually, which is definitely positive. After that, we need to, well, actually on the weekly, we've got a lot of space to move up in terms of like relative strength. So let's see. Anything could happen, but I'm positive. Look,
we're at the start of 2023. We've still got 12 months within the year. We've seen last year what can happen. A lot of things happened no one predicted. Let's see what this year holds. It's still early, but it's a good start to the year.
It's a good start.
And until next week, we'll keep you guys updated next week. But until then, peace up, A-Town.